Thank you, Bethany, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Charlie Peters and me, Olivia Utley.
Now, Labour is warning today that what they call Reform UK's war on net zero would cost almost 1 million jobs.
Minister for Energy, Michael Shanks MP, accused Nigel Farage's party of having an anti-jobs, anti-growth ideology.
Now, these comments come after the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, wrote to energy companies urging them not to invest in the latest round of green energy contracts.
And joining us in the studio now is the Managing Director of Green Oil UK, Simon Nash. Now, Simon, I'm guessing that you agree here with the Labour Party and you think that the war on green energy, as they're dubbing it, is a mistake.
Absolutely. Green energy investments provide employment and also part of our net zero strategy, and I think that's extremely important. The Stern Review many years ago said that the costs of dealing with climate change outweighed the costs from extreme weather to disruptions with food supply and so on. We have suffered a lot in this country from increasing energy prices due to Vladimir Putin and our reliance on foreign imported gas. The same with fuel prices for your car. If we electrify the car network, so to speak, that will result in lower energy prices, the lower costs to filling up your car with electricity rather than foreign imported oil. So it's really a shame that Reform UK are doing this. I think probably a lot of people are in favour of some of their policies and they're going to lose a lot of votes with this anti-net zero.
On the whole, it does look as though, polling-wise, you're probably right about that. Net zero is popular with the public. Net zero is popular with the public in theory. People like the idea of policies to tackle climate change. But when it actually comes to it, when people are taxed more to pay for companies perhaps such as yours, when there's less money in people's pockets, don't you think the tide might start to turn on net zero as people realise just how expensive it is?
I don't think so, because it's not that expensive. Putin's foreign gas is very expensive. You can see the success of many energy companies which are making purely renewable energy. They are extremely successful. They're part of the capitalistic private sector. When we just had British Gas as a national supplier, things weren't great. And actually the free market has meant people are funding renewable energy again and again through their home contracts.
The energy market isn't that free, of course. There's still the energy regulator, the market rate is set in some way. And of course, we do have extremely expensive energy and prices, far higher than many of our sort of international competitors at a similar level of economic development. Is it the case, though, Simon, that we're going too far, too fast when it comes to renewables? People want this to come in, but the technology just isn't there yet.
The technology is there. With respect, in 1991, our renewable energy level was about 2%, and it's now about 42% in the UK, and we have, on top of that, 25% nuclear.
And how expensive are our energy bills?
Well, they are not. I changed supplier to a renewable supplier a few years ago, and it was cheaper. I did the right thing, and it was actually cheaper. How much of our energy price has gone up historically? I mean, again, we are reliant on gas. That was partly the 90s Conservative government when it moved us from coal to gas. And I don't think we can blame it on renewables at all. And actually, Reform UK and most of the political parties, ironically, except for the Green Party, are in favour of nuclear power.
Right.
And I'm in favour of that and renewable energy. And actually, a lot of this kind of huge figure for net zero is investing in British jobs to build nuclear power stations. We've got Hinkley Point C, and you might be aware Rolls Royce, the company, not the car company, the other part of it, they are looking to make small modular nuclear reactors, which could then power data centres and everything. Britain will have the edge if this green investment goes through with the current.
Well, I think lots and lots of people think that nuclear energy specifically is a huge, huge part of this answer, and it is good, as far as I'm concerned, that the government is investing in this. You talk about moving over to renewable energy and that being cheaper. Is it not the case that that is because the government is subsidising renewable energy? And so, yes, it's cheaper. Your gas bill might look cheaper every month, but you're paying much, much more in taxes for it.
That is not true. I looked on the figures from the ONS, and wind power is actually cheaper than well, it's pretty cheap. It's between 38 and 49 pounds per megawatt hour, which is comparable with fossil fuels now on gas.
I genuinely don't know the answer to this. I've been off for 7 months on maternity leave, so I'm a bit out of the loop.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But Is it still the case that the problem with wind power is that it is, extremely unreliable? If you have a still day, then you just don't get very much power, or are there ways around that?
There are absolutely ways around that. There's the Dinnerveg in Wales. There's like a lake on top of a hill, and you release that. So the kinetic energy pumps the water up, and you release the energy when wind supplies are low, and that's gigawatts of energy. That could be replicated. Giant flywheels. Have you heard of Elon Musk's Tesla Powerwall? You have that in your home. They're about £7,000 each, and there'll be cheaper non-Tesla versions. And that allows your home to store energy. So you can have solar panels on your roof, charge up the battery and release it at night. If we all have electric cars as part of a smart grid, we can absolutely get rid of those ebbs and flows due to wind being sort of on and off.
But electric cars, sorry, just the batteries in electric cars, isn't it the case that those batteries are incredibly energy intensive to make in the first place, and sometimes electric cars end up being more polluting and bad for the environment than regular petrol cars?
That's not true. There was a PR company employed by the makers of Hummer to spread the myth that the Prius actually had a higher carbon footprint than a giant SUV Hummer, and it turns out not to be the case. The carbon footprint of making any car is quite high, and electric cars do not have a particularly high carbon footprint. The batteries can be recycled. The previous government under Rishi Sunak funded battery recycling centres. So there's a lot of this kind of myth of, all minerals come from child slave mines in Africa and no batteries, well, they all get dumped in the sea. This is, not true.
So there are no child slave mines in Africa of creating batteries for electric cars?
So make your phone, laptop and your electric car. Unfortunately, you do get dubious supply chains. There are solutions to that being worked on at the moment. We can't stop using our phones and TV studios because of this, and we need to look after those people. And, mining is a complicated one because a lot of these people do want the work. It's a case of making it safe and giving them a fair price, and that's the solution.
Let's bring it back to Britain here, because I think people watching at home will be listening to this, Simon, and thinking, yeah, OK, we really want green energy. We want our energy prices to be lower. We want renewables in this country for the environment as well. But we've got politicians setting these arbitrary timescales for let's have this achieved by this point when we don't know if the technology will be able to get there. And at the same time, Simon, there's also this frustration that people talk about nuclear energy, but then they do nothing to change the policy to make it more likely to be developed. Is that a sense of frustration that you hold as well? It
is. I think there's a problem in this country of contractors consistently trying to rip off the government. We saw that with HS2. Rishi Sunak pulled the plug because it's almost like a biblical parable of everyone trying to take money, then the whole thing gets pulled. With nuclear power, it's often been delayed and delayed and delayed. There is a problem in the UK. Most degrees on nuclear and nuclear physics are actually about decommissioning nuclear power stations rather than new technology and how to build new nuclear power stations. That's an education sector issue. The second part of your question about renewables, it's important we need it. If you could repeat the question, I'd appreciate that.
About the legislation that prevents people being able to develop nuclear power stations, for example. Planning is so difficult in this country. Yeah. Setting those targets, we're going to have all this by then, but then not doing very much to make it easier for us to build those power stations.
Yeah, well, the arbitrary targets you mentioned, I don't think they are arbitrary. For success in life, you need to set goals, and I think it's important for governments to do that. They might not always be hit. I do think, have you ever seen the movie called Purge Nights, where there are no laws for one evening? We should have that in the planning sector. I think it's ridiculous how long these things take.
Brick down.
Yeah. You've got 6 months to build absolutely anything almost would be good, but protect nature at the same time. I think that is a problem. That's for legislators to... the trouble is, as an environmental person, I think it's great that we would just be able to build wind turbines and fit... it's ridiculous. You can't fit double-glazed windows on a church because of these listed building rules. That's absurd. You can't fit solar panels on other buildings. They should just be exempt. Along with double glazing, for example, that's a very easy law to create. And, the politicians need to do that and get rid of these barriers. In China, they've built so much renewable energy, so many high-speed rail lines, so many solar panels, because they don't have these issues. And we need to get something in the middle, I think, here in the UK.
Well, thank you very much, Simon Nash. I think the idea of 6 months where you can build anything, I wonder how that will go down with our viewers. Do get in touch and let us know.
I think lots of panicked members of the audience, they're hearing about Purge Nights, tuning in for a second there. Yeah, thank you very much, Simon, the Managing Director of Green Oil UK.
Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.